Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I just want to share with you how I made over this corner cabinet. I couldn't be more excited on the way it turned out. It is absolutely gorgeous. Here is the before. It's a beautiful old corner cabinet. The inlays on the glass, it's beautiful, but it's broken and it's bowed. So it would cost a lot of money to get that fixed. So I thought it'd be a lot easier just to take the door off and save it for the person who buys it. If they want to do something with it, they can. But for me in this project, I chose to take it off. So after cleaning it thoroughly, I took a little bit of sea spray texture additive, mixed it with paint, stirred it up, and I'm removing the shelves, and then I'm going to lay it on the piece. So when I apply it, I'm just going to stipple it on. So I'm going up and down, smooshing it on. This is going to create just some layers and some texture. This is my base coat. This is the color that I want to come through. So when I put my second color on, I'm not going to give it complete coverage because I want this dark color to come through. And you'll see more of these bumps and textures once I get the other coat on. I'm going to apply this to the entire piece, including the shelves, just to keep it consistent. When you're using texture additive, it's generally a 1-to-1 ratio. If it's too thick, you can add a little water, or you can just add more paint. Okay, so for the second color, I chose buttercream. Now, when I was applying this, you don't want to give full coverage to your bottom color, whatever color you want to come through. So when I was doing this, I was stippling, just like I did with the first coat, just around the edge, just so I had a defined edge. And then I went back in and filled it in. I did this for 2 coats, just for better coverage. I can't lie, it does look like a hot mess, but you have to trust the process, just like with any paint technique. It'll always have an ugly phase, but in the end, it just will turn out perfect. You can see me step back here, take a look at it, and think to myself, oh, good golly, what is going on, LOL. But I'm trusting the process and know it will come out okay. So I've decided on which transfer sheet I was going to use for the bottom. And there's a random M on there because it correlates with another sheet where it says maize. But I didn't need that on the bottom, so I simply just cut off the M because I know that I'll probably use it for something else. Okay, after the paint dried, I went ahead and put on a layer of top coat. And I did this just because I know sometimes the transfer will release a little easier when you have top coat and it won't pull off your paint. However, you don't always have to do that. I did the top without sealing it with adding the transfer. You just have to make sure your paint is completely dry. And the top had sat at least 24 hours, so I knew my paint was dry. All right, so I did this on my live, but I included it here on this video so you could see it. Look at how gorgeous maize roses are. And the detail is incredible. So this is kind of where I base my colors off of, just the transfer itself. I just knew that they would be complementary to each other. Now look at that texture. I could have taken my sander and I could have sanded some of that back, but I love, love, love the texture. So when you're applying the transfer, you just have to make sure you rub around all of those little bumps. It will stick to the bumps. So when it's time to release the carrier sheet, as you start to pull it back, if you notice a piece of the transfer stuck to the carrier sheet, just simply lay it back down, give it a nice rub, and it'll come right off. Look how beautiful it turned out. I could not be more happy. All right, so now I had to think about the top. So what I did was I put the shelves back in. I didn't paint them yet because I wasn't sure if I was going to paint them or not, because the brown does look kind of neat and it kind of pops a little bit. But what I need to think about is the layout of where I'm going to put the other 3 pages of Maize Roses. So I grabbed some painter's tape and I just played a little. I tried different layouts and I finally decided on where I was going to put them. So I removed the shelves, and then I just started to put them on and rub with that transfer tool. Here's a part of the roses that I'm going to cut off because it's a continuation to the original pattern, and I don't need this right now. I may need it later, so I'm just going to cut it out and stick it to the side. When adding the third page of my transfer, there was a little shelf support that was sticking out, so I had to take some scissors, and I simply just cut the transfer and made it so it just laid over it, and then I continued to rub it out, and it just fit perfect. There was a part I cut off of the third one that was meant to continue, because this is a continuing pattern transfer. I cut it off so it didn't look awkward on the bottom, but I noticed at the top I could put it up there, so I simply just gave it a little trim, and then I rubbed it on just to complete that rose at the top. And then if you notice, I also just cut the leaves off because the leaves were sticking out on the left side, but after I cut them off, I was able to put them, you can see here, I put them on the right side, so it just fits perfect. So that's what's so nice about these transfers is you can cut them, manipulate them, and put them in any way you want. You don't always have to follow the pattern of what it is. Okay, so it's time to put the shelves back in, take a peek, and see how it is coming along. I love it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to paint the shelves or leave them brown, but I think I like them brown. I think it helps pop. It makes it just, I think it just makes it look unique. So I give everything on the cabinet a top coat. Now the top coat is dry, I grab my brown wax and I'm going to just antique the corners and the edges, and I'll probably go around the roses too. Now the reason why you want to top coat before you wax is because the wax can bite into your paint because the paint is very porous. If you don't want that to happen, give it a top coat, and then you can put the wax on and you have more control over it. So I can take my rag and I can blend it in, wipe it back, and just make it look a little bit more smooth. Okay, so I'm going to continue doing that around the entire cabinet. But I think what I really like is it looks nice because it's very subtle, but it makes the roses stand out, and I think that I need to do it to the roses also. So I'm just going to lightly put the wax around the roses, and you're going to see it's going to make the design pop a little bit more, and just it'll make the whole thing look a little bit aged with the texture and the brown paint from underneath coming through, and then of course the wax. So as you see here, I'm putting the dark wax around the roses. I'm framing it in. I'm not really touching the transfer, but after I put it on, I take my rag and I just kind of feather it into the transfer and out to the transfer just to give it a little shading or a little shadow. But you can just see it just adds a little bit more to the cabinet and to making it look aged. Okay, so now I'm just going to add the dark wax to the rest of the cabinet. I'm going to pay attention to the edges, the crevices, and I'm going to frame or shadow in the rest of the roses up the middle of the cabinet. If you're enjoying this video, I would love for you to subscribe to my videos, and don't forget to click that bell because then you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. The cabinet is finished and I am in love. I absolutely love this project. Sometimes you do projects, you're like, yeah, that's pretty cool. But there's other times where it's like, yeah, that's beautiful. And that's what this one is. I love it. I hope you like it too. Thank you for watching my video. I am creating with Shannon at Pick & Boots Vintage, and I appreciate your support. Thanks. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest.